recorded. I feel bad for that, but I have some other discussions online about this. It's a very, very important topic. Just to recap what we spoke about last week, we spoke about what was going through Abraham's mind when he was told by Hashem to sacrifice his son, and the idea brought up. David Dweck suggested that at that time that was a common thing, and people felt that maybe for Abraham it was a natural thing, and we do see things like that happening until today. I brought up the point that what was Abraham thinking on how is he going to confront Sarah? How is he going to break the news to her after the Akedah, if it would have taken place? Some people brought up a midrashim, a midrashic interpretation that says that Abraham knew that the Akedah is not going to happen, and if that is the case, then what is the test? What is the trial for Abraham? And one more thing, one more thing that was brought up is that uh, about that test of Abraham and Yitzhak, is that it's hard to say that Yitzhak was 37 years old, because then that trial is not the trial of Abraham, is the trial of Yitzhak, is a test for Yitzhak. So those are the points that we discussed in general the influence of the culture on Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jews, and that's a central element in the understanding of the culture of what we call Sephardi and Ashkenazi, because Sephardi and Ashkenazi is not really about the country. This is I'm saying this is a brief introduction, something that I've discussed in the past many times. But people say, why would you call yourself Sephardi if your ancestors did not live in Spain? By the same token, you could tell to someone who defines himself as Ashkenazi that you cannot call yourself Ashkenazi unless your ancestor came from Germany, because Ashkenaz is specifically Germany. So the word Sephardi and Ashkenazi, as in the Jewish terminology, when we talk about halacha and ideology and philosophy, they're not about a place of origin. It's about theological and cultural ideas, and in many aspects, it has to do with the influence of Christianity and Islam on Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews, respectively. So the Ashkenazi Jewry was born and evolved under the rule of German Catholicism, and from the 9th century on. Jews felt isolated. They felt threatened by the church. The church made sure to point out that the Jews are persecuted, downtrodden, that they're never going to rehabilitate themselves. They were so confident in that they one of the fathers of the church said, he took the pasuk, Al tahargem pen yishkechu ami, do not kill them lest my people forget. And he said, this was a prophecy made by one of the fathers of the church. He said that this refers to the Jews. The church is not supposed to kill the Jews completely, because they should remain as a reminder to their evil deeds and iniquities. So it's a very heavy burden that lies on the shoulders of Jews in Germany at the time. Now, add to that the obsession of Christianity with martyrdom, with the crucifixion, and the way the idea was promoted that you have to die for God, and we understand why it took a central place in Ashkenazi theology. Add to that the Crusades. I mean, this is a long discussion that don't want to have the whole discussion here. I want to go to the piyut. And Sephardic Judaism did not go through that. There were persecutions, there were problems of many different kinds, including religious, but the religious tension of dealing with a totally different religion didn't exist. They look at it as an offshoot of Judaism that believes in another prophet on top of Moshe Rabbeinu. They believe in Muhammad, but there's one God. He has no physical shape. The difference that there are no images in the worship places. And they also come from the same culture. So the need to create a barrier was not as strong as it was in among German Jewry, and also the pull of the idea of martyrdom didn't exist with the same strength in Sepharad. So I'll start before we go to our Kedvan Yakad. I want to show you some elements of an Ashkenazi piyut that happened to find its way into the Sephardic Siddur. I think that it became part of our liturgy because it speaks of the Akedah. It's a central theme. We almost do not incorporate any other Ashkenazi piyutim into our liturgy, except for the Sha'anot. Most of the Sha'anot are of not of Sephardic origin, but right now let's stick with that. So this piyut is called Imafes Rova Aken. It is chanted in our Selihot, also in the Ashkenazi Selihot. It was written by Rabbi Ephraim of Regensburg, who lived through the Crusades. And the description of the Akedah here is with emphasis on the devotion and the speed in which Avraham and Isaac go to the Akedah. The description is very vivid when they talk about the Akedah. It doesn't say take Yitzhak and sacrifice him. It says Kahna ben Yakir v'nimtza damo al kir. Take your beloved son and let his blood be sprinkled on the wall of the Mizbeach. So of course this pasuk is taken from a discussion in Vayikra of the Korbanot, but it's really a very graphic description of the sacrifice. Then we see Abraham goes to take Yitzhak, Ratz el anar. He ran to get Yitzhak. Then Yahid Hukal Katzevi, the only son, was light-footed like a deer. And then it says, B'mitzvatcha shneim nizarim. Both of them are very careful to follow your word. Ve'acharecha lo meharherim. They don't second guess you. Hashu ve'alchu nimarim. Fast they went, speedily, on one of the mountains. Again, miharu atzei ola. Quickly they brought the firewood. And when Yitzhak realizes that his father is about to sacrifice him, what does it say? Ra'a yahid ki waseh, na'am lehora menuseh. When the only son understood that he is the lamb to be sacrificed, he spoke to and told his father, who was being tested, Avi oti kakeves ta'aseh, lo tahmol velo techaseh. Please, father, sacrifice me as you do a lamb. Have no mercy on me. Why is that? Bi hafetz v'nichsof, levavi lo lahasof. He wants to expose my heart to him. It's a double entendre. Levavi lo lahasof, in the physical sense, do it through the korban by being killed, and metaphorically that your heart pours out to God. So what is Yitzhak's argument to assist Avraham in doing the Akedah? He says, Im timna'ani, sof, if you will deny God my sacrifice, sof, at the end, ruhi v'nishmati elav yasof, he will take my spirit and soul anyway. In other words, Yitzhak is saying, we are all going to die. So if God tells you that I have to die at this moment in that manner, you should do it. So to give you a sense of the way it is chanted in the Sephardic tradition, we read like this: Bi hafetz v'nichsof levavi lo lahasof im timna'eni sof ruhi v'nishmati elav yesof yadav. And then that's how it continues. So take a minute and compare that to the dialogue of Avraham and Yitzhak in the other piyut that we mentioned last week. Remember, in the Oked V'Ni'akad, the Sephardic piyut by Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel ben Abbas, in that piyut, Yitzhak tells Avraham, take my remnants and bring them to my mother and tell her this is Yitzhak's fragrance. And here, Yitzhak tells Abraham, have no mercy on me. Just do what God told you, because eventually, anyway, He's going to take me. Worlds apart. It's the complete opposite. So, in one piyut, Yitzhak is presenting a huge dilemma to Abraham. How are you going to live with the consequences of your act? And in the other piyut, he says, go ahead, do it. I'm with you on it. So let's go now to Oked Vani Akad and start from the beginning. I'll read one stanza in the way it is chanted, and then I'll explain it. So this is the first bite. עת שערי רצון להיפתח יום כפיי ליל שוטח אנא זכור נא לי ביום מוכח עוקד והנעקד והמזבח. So what are we reading here? At the time when the gates of the divine will are open. It's Rosh Hashanah, before we blow shofar. Yom ehyeh kapai le'el shotech, as I spread my palms to God with tefillah. Ana zichor nali b'yom mocheach, please remember for me on the day of rebuke, of reproach. Oked v'ni'akad v'mizbeach. Oked, the one who binds, that's Abraham. Hane'ikad, the one who was bound, that's Yitzhak. V'amizbech, the altar, as I said last week, is the object that stands in for God, so to speak. It's the place in which the Akedah is going to take to occur. Then the second bite. באחרית נוסה בסוף העשרה הבן אשר נולד לך משרה אם נפשך בועד מאוד נקשרה קומה עליהו לי לעולה ורה על הר אשר כבוד לך זורח. And then everybody answers, עוקד והנעקד So what are we reading here? At the end of the 10 trials, according to Hazal, Abraham was tested 10 times. And that was the last one. Haben asher nolad lecha misara, the son who was born to you from Sarah. We already see here something that's not in the Tanakh, right? But in the Torah, it says, Et bincha, et yehidecha, asher ahavta et Yitzhak. The mother is not mentioned. But in this piyut, the mother is mentioned already in the beginning. The son whom Sarah bore you. So you know that he is her son as well. Im nafshecha bo'ad meod nikshara. Even though you love him tremendously, so the word im, we should say that in the Hebrew of the poets of the Golden Age in Spain, im means even though. It's not as in modern Hebrew, im is if, and also in the Tanakh, it's if. But because of the influence of the Arabic, im means even though, sometimes. And so, even though you love him so much, I want you to bring him as a korban. Katriel, you had a question?
No, I accidentally closed the button.
Oh, okay. So let's continue there. So what do we read in the piyut? Kum ha'aleu li le'ola bara, bring him as a pure sacrifice. Al har asher kavod lecha zoreach, on the mount where the shining glory is present, and that's again according to the Midrash. Har HaMoriah, Eretz HaMoriah, is the site of the temple. We get to this is the third. Amar leSarah ki hamudechi Yitzhak גדל לעולמד עבודת השחק אלך והורהו אשר לא אלחק אמרה לך אדון אבל אל תרחק ענה יהי ליבך בלבותך עוקד והנעקד Here again we see Sarah. And that is based on the Midrash. According to the Midrash, Abraham, now that he needs to take Yitzhak away, comes to Sarah and he says, your beloved Yitzhak has grown up and he still doesn't know how to worship, how to serve Hashem, Avodat Shachak, the service of heaven. This, by the way, if we stop here and we ask ourselves, how old was Yitzhak according to this poet? It was obviously not 37, right? Because for a father to tell the mother, our son doesn't know how to serve Hashem at the age of 37, that's pretty weird, right? Especially when we think about the Avot. So obviously this poet goes with the interpretation of the Sephardic Hachamim, who said, Ibn Ezra, for example, that Yitzhak was a teenager, but maybe even younger. But he comes to Sarah and he says, you should know that your beloved one doesn't know how to serve Hashem. Elech ve'oreu asher lo elhaq. I'm going to teach him that which God has legislated for him. Amra lecha adon aval al tirhak. She said, go, master, but don't go too far. Anah, he answered, Yehi libech be'el boteach. Your heart should trust God. Have faith in God. So let's ask this question. Let's look at those two lines of the dialogue. He says, I'm going to take him to teach him how to serve Hashem, right? And she says, go, but don't go too far. And he answered, have faith in God. How do you read this dialogue? Is there something beyond what is just written?
Could you?
Yes, Nathaniel.
Yeah, could you repeat the question? I didn't follow
I'm asking, and Susie writes she's suspicious of something. What she says? He says, I'm going to take him to teach him, right? We're going on a religious retreat, right, or a wilderness experience to teach your son how to be close to God. And she says, go, but don't go too far. And Nadav writes she was a doting mother. She cares about her son. But is there something beyond that? The al tirhak, when she says, don't go too far, and he answers, just trust God. What is happening there? Let's start from the end. When he says, trust God, that's the kind of answer that maybe should get you concerned, right? Lehavdil, we make a distinction. When you have someone who needs to do some work for you and you say, when is this going to be done? And they say, no worries, everything is okay, right? That's where you start worrying. Where, right, Nadav said that she's suspicious, she doesn't trust Abraham. What's going on? He doesn't say, when she says, go, but don't go too far, he doesn't say, don't worry, I'm not going to go too far. It doesn't address directly her concern. It's just sort of vaguely, trust me, everything is going to be okay. Right, Nathaniel?
Yeah, I had a thought. When you want to surprise someone, you say, it's like they're curious about what you're trying to do for them, and then you say, oh, don't worry about it, just trust me.
Yeah.
But
always good.
God, maybe it's maybe the connotation is different, but right. I don't know. I add that.
Right. So I think I read here in the yes, Daphna.
Maybe this is reaching, but it seems like maybe she has a better sense of how to trust God, and she's telling him maybe you should be careful, and right. His response is kind of dismissive.
Mm-hmm. So Gabriel wrote, Abraham does trust God. It's true, but what Daphna is saying is, she's asking him not about the physical distance that he's going to go, right? But the spiritual distance. Where are you going to go? And I don't think it's that you're reaching too far or speculating. I'm answering Ariel on that because this is poetry. This is not the Torah. In the Torah, we read what we read. This poet, and if we continue reading, we'll see that he goes there. This poet puts Abraham, on the spot, and he says, "This is what your wife told you." He says, "Don't go too far. Don't go too far." Could be physically, could be also conceptually. Don't go to the extreme. Killing your son, sacrificing your son is an extreme. The most extreme act that one can imagine. Katriel?
I was gonna say that's what I was gonna say when you said I go too. That's what I was gonna say when you said don't go too far.
Right,
Like
you say it today.
remembering that it is a poem,
Right.
and I trust God to be. I was thinking more like how Sarah,
You're breaking. I can't
trust.
hear you well. Sorry.
I was thinking about how over the last. If you say that he was older or younger, however, they left him in
Yeah, I'm
the
sorry. You're coming broken. You should just write it in the chat, okay? Write in chat.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Yes. So Sarah feels something there. Gabriel, we addressed it last week. If Abraham knew that he's not going to sacrifice his son, then there's no test here. But even if this is so, this is the take. We have to remember this is the take of Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel Ibn Abbas, the poet, his take on the story, and the way that we also have to remember when he writes that the story was already interpreted for thousands of years in different ways. And when Rabbi Yehuda writes that, he knows that there are Jews in other parts of the world. People know about this. It's written, you could find it in the commentary to Maimonides, Ilchot Kiddush Hashem, when he speaks about the obligation to sanctify God's name. He says, if one did not have to die and died anyway, it not only did not sanctify Hashem's name, he desecrated it, and he deserves to be punished for that, as if committing suicide. And the Haggadah Maimoniot on the spot says, but there is an opinion by the Ashkenazi Rebbe Ba'alei Tosafot that if one chooses to die, not only it is allowed, but it's a noble act to do in God's name. So when Rabbi Yehuda writes that, he already knows of a debate. There's a rift in Jewish theology about the concept of the Akedah, about dying for God. And the question is, do you tell God, I don't think I should do it, tell me why do you want me to do it, or you just do it and you accept God's verdict? So we continue to the next bite, and we'll see what happens there. Okay, with this, Shahar ve'ishkim laloch baboker ושני לערבים את השקר יום השלישי נגעו אל החקר וירד מוד כבוד ועוד ויקר עמד והתבונן להימשך עוקד והנעקד והמזבח. So Shahar, he gets up early. Vayishkim la'aloch baboker. Right? Vayashkem Avram baboker. Avram gets up early in the morning. And I have this thought, and I wrote actually, I hope to share it soon. I wrote the description of the Haggadah from Sarai's point of view. And I was thinking, how did she feel when she woke up early in the morning and she saw that Avraham was gone? And she says, why did he leave so early? Yeah, I know that, and especially if we don't have the Midrash, without the Midrash that says that he informed her that he's about to leave, she doesn't know anything. The Torah doesn't say that. Hashem tells Abraham, take your son. He gets up in the morning, he takes his hak and goes. So Sarah wakes up a little later. Abraham is gone. She goes out. She sees that he took two of his boys. She asks the other servants, do you know where Abraham is? They say, we don't know. He took Yitzhak, he took firewood and a knife and went. So she probably, if that was the case, became very, very anxious. She's trying to follow them and to see what's going on. My imagination going there, trying to figure out what was happening. So here it says He took two of his lads who are of the nations of the false nations, metei in the sense of metim, people, not with the shiva, not with metim as dead people. That's according to Midrash that the boys who went with the those who went with it, Abraham, were Eliezer and Ishmael. So they represent the other nations who don't have that merit. Yom HaShelishi Nagaru El Heker, on the third day they came to the bottom of it, meaning they finally see what they're searching for. Vayar demut kavod vahod vayaker, he sees glory and splendor. Amad vidbonan leimashiach. Now he stops and he concentrates as if to anoint himself to be ready for that mission. See the difference between this piyut and the Ashkenazi piyut, the German piyut. ראו חשו והלכו נמהרים על אחד ההרים, ראו עד תלולה מיהרו עצי עולה. So they went very quickly, with great speed on one of the mountains. When they saw the ed telula, when they saw the vapor or the shining light coming up, they with great speed prepared the wood and paved the land to do the korban. So our poet writes, Amad v'hidbonan li mashiach. He stops. Now Avraham himself thinks about what he's going to do. He's not doing it with great speed as if nothing can stop him. He understands that this is something serious. ידעוני ערב כי קראם לאמור, אור הראיתם צץ בראש הר המור, ויאמרו לא נחזה רק מהמור. So he called out to his lads and says, did you see the light shining at the top of Mount Moriah? They say, we only see a hill. Ana shevu po am meshulim lahamor. This is based on the Midrash. The Torah says, shevu po im hamor, sit with the donkey. And that's an opportunity for the donkey to hurl insults in other nations and say, am meshulim lahamor, you're a nation that is like a donkey. Vani v'anar lishtateh, the boy and I will go and bow down and come back. Halchu. So today we'll stop with this bite maybe, or we'll see, because I see there's a lot of chat and I want to answer people's questions. Halchu. Let's read this one, but first I'll translate. Halchu shenehem la'asud b'melacha. They both went to do the melacha, to serve Hashem. Vaya'anei Yitzhak le'aviv kacha, and Yitzhak spoke up and told the following to his father: Avi, re'eh esh va'atzei ma'aracha. Father, see, there's fire and firewood. Ayeh adoni se asher kahalacha. Where is my master? Where is the lamb required by law? Ha'at beyom zeh datecha shocheach. Do you, in the feminine, do you on that day forget your religion? Oked v'ne'ekad ha'mizbeach. So let's read it with the tune. הלכו שניהם לעשות במלאכה, ויענה יצחק לאביו ככה, אבי רש ועצי מערכה, היה אדוני שא אשר כהלך, העד ביום הזה דעתך, שוכח עוקד והנעקד והמזבח. So in this line we have the dialogue start between Yitzhak and Abraham. Very powerful, right? And Yitzhak says something that's not in the Torah. Hinei ha'esh ve'a'itzim ve'ayaseh le'olah. He says, here's the fire, here's the wood, where's the lamb? That's what we have in the Torah. But here, the poet added one line. Ha'at beyom zeh datecha shocheach. First of all, let's look at the at. Why at velo ata? So we could say the poet needed it for the meter. Could be. But I searched and I found like there were different ways for the poet to put the word ata without breaking the meter, like Habiom ze'ata da'atecha shocheach. Change the order of the words in the sentence. You could fit in ata. Why at? So that's the thought that I have, knowing that the poet incorporates a lot of midrashic interpretations. Following the sin of the golden calf, the Torah tells us of Moshe's dialogue with Hashem, and Moshe tells Hashem, "Im kacha at oseli, horgeni naharog." If you are going to do this to me, I'd rather die. Ve'al ere bera'ati, and I don't want to see the evil that befalls that nation. Right? So Moshe uses the at instead of ata. Hachamim say on that. The Midrash says, "Tashash koho ki nekeva." He became weak as a female, as a woman. So put aside, the derogatory tone of the Midrash. We spoke about it many, many times. It's a problem. But they say the usage of the feminine means that Moshe feels weak at that point. So I think that this is a possible usage of the poet here. Ha'at b'yom zeh datcha shocheach. Avraham or Yitzhak are weak at that point. They feel that their knees are buckling. This is what's going to happen. But I want to hear from you also. Why is Yitzhak telling Avraham the question that the poet added? Ha'at b'yom zeh datecha shocheach.
Well, it depends which religion he's forgetting, right? We forget that Abraham is in transition. He is the person who's changing over. So it's not like it's a clean break. Like you go all from, a religion that I guess might do things like child sacrifice to a religion where you don't do things like that. It can be confusing. You might not even know what was being asked of you when you're still figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he needs to forget his old religion. Maybe he needs, maybe he's forgetting his new religion. I think the fact that it's ambiguous may be intentional.
Yes. So what are you forgetting? But definitely a talk, whether it says you're forgetting your new religion or what you were used to in the past, Yitzhak says something here is missing. And what's missing is not physical. Again, it's conceptual. You're going to sacrifice me. I want to look. I'm going to pause the recording because I'm going to open the chat, and maybe later on, not everybody wants to see the whole chat there, with their name on it. So I'll pause the recording here, and we'll go briefly through the chat.